Well, much like the journey down here, that was a tired and frustrating performance. The Bournemouth West folks come up to Newcastle on Tuesday if you really want to, and make sure you stick around. Welcome back to Black White Banter, ladies and gentlemen, for what is probably the earliest match vlog that I'm ever going to do on this channel, ever. But it is the first. Away days are back, and I am currently walking through the middle of nowhere, trying to find my way to the supporters bus, the pissy, smelly, toilets won't work, will probably break down supporters bus that I have missed so much. But the time is currently 3:30 a.m. in the morning. Now, a lot of people whinge about Sky, but I've thought about this, and I was ranting to myself about Sky Sports, shafting us, but I'm thinking 2 o'clock on a Sunday, it could be 12:30 on a Saturday, it could be a Monday night, so let's just get Bournemouth out of the way, first one of the season, and move on from there. So I'm currently walking to get on the bus. I'll tell you what, there's been a couple of nice views along the way as well. Look at that, there she blows. Only advantage to being up at this time of the morning. The only advantage. Right, I'm just walking over the bridge now, and I'll tell you what, on the topic of the time I'm getting up, it just, every time I get up, like, I'm like a kid at Christmas. I had no sleep last night, tossed and turned, alarm went off, jumped up like I was waiting for my presents. But it's just a stark reminder of how well supported this football club is. There are going to be thousands of fans travelling down on their bank holiday Sunday. I could be sitting on a bus today for about 16 hours, and there'll be fans who've made car journeys, sacrificed bank holidays. It's just incredible. Football is actually back. I've got a bag full of booze, maybe a little bit of Jägermeister in there, and it's still at the time as I'm coming over the Tyne Bridge where people are still out drinking. I'm going to probably stumble into some pissheads eating the kebabs, asking whether I want a chip. Football, away days, bring it on. I'll tell you what, on the football side of things, Bournemouth, difficult game. They've got a lot of big signings who are going to be making their debuts at home today, but their main signing, Mr. Iwalianson, I'm definitely saying that wrong, but forgive me because I haven't had my coffee yet. 37 million euros from Porto, their record signing. All eyes on him from a Bournemouth point of view. Sky cameras will probably be on him as well. Let's get over the line today. Let's see a little bit more energy than what we saw in that first half an hour before the red card last Saturday. Same defensive resilience with or without Shea. And let's give all of these fans travelling all that way and back something to shout about. I'm confident. I am. I'm obviously going to get plenty of fan thoughts today. Bit of a boozy one, I would imagine. First one, I think we go into a pub first, which is why I'm setting off at the most ridiculous hour in the morning imaginable. Let's get amongst it. I can smell an away day in the air. One thing I'm not looking forward to today on this lovely trip is the 16 hours of bus. And anyone who's never done a trip down the south coast, you pretty much age on that journey, just like this.
You should have seen us gunning, passing the folks along the road just as they were standing. All the lads and lasses there, all with smiling faces, gunning along the Scotswood Road to see the bleeding rain.
This beard will be down here by the time I get off this bus, but that's what the Jägermeister's for, so bring it on. Jägerbombs, ole, ole, ole. Jägerbombs, ole, ole.
That is really... That is bloody lovely.
Right then, just landed, just arrived outside the Thomas trip, which is ironic. Thomas, I know you're not watching this, but I'm not going to say any more about the trip year incident last year, but I'll let anyone watch this video put 2 and 2 together on that one down in Bournemouth last season. Just arrived, pub stop, everybody is knackered. It's been a bit of a mellow journey down, not too much singing after waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Eyes are like absolute pissos in the snow, but we're going to sink a few beers before we get over to the stadium. Like I say, I'm confident. Everybody I've spoke to on the bus on the way down has been quite confident. Been smashing the Jaeger bombs, couple of beers to try and pull myself round, bit of food, couple of ham and peas pudding sarnies. Of course, the sun, just as I'm recording this, has just come out. So let's go and get a few beers amongst us. Probably a lot more expensive than what I was paying in Newcastle. But anyway, before I don't get chance because I'll have had too many drinks, let's get into some, you ready for it, you're ready for it, some black and white banter, stats. Steps. Steps. This one might shock a lot of Newcastle fans. Like, literally everybody on the bus could not believe it. Newcastle United have not won the first 2 games of the season since the 97-98 season under Kenny Dalglish. That is a ridiculous stat, and I really hope that I am not the jinx. I really hope that's one we correct today. Away, Eddie Howe's Mags. Only Cole Palmer in 2024, who we know has banged in goals for fun with that ridiculous ice-cold celebration that he does, shivering celebration. Only he has contributed, to more goals in 2024 than Alexander Isak. Hopefully he gets off the mark today. Bournemouth, it's all eyes on their Brazilian new star up front. Let's hope that it's ours that leads the line and does things properly.
Even though everyone's moving now.
Right, we're on the bus. Final journey over before the shenanigans begin. We've just been in the pub. I've been pestering Fraser all afternoon. I'm on the bus with Fraser. Right, first and foremost, are you feeling confident today? Sort of. Right, well, that leads me to my first question. Score for today's game?
4-1. 4-1. 4-1.
Half time 1-0. Fucking hell. Something needs to improve. I mean, I know last week we were playing with 10 and we're happy with the defensive performance. I don't know what's just happened in that first half. It almost looks like an end of season game. Really lethargic. Anthony Gordon, we talked about him from last week. You know, is he a little bit slow in training because of the Euros? He's just looked so off it. Every time he's got the ball, he's released it. He's barely had the ball. Joe Linton, of course, for their goals, made a mistake. He hasn't looked as good as last week. Bruno's been quiet again, but we just generally look lethargic. Isak's desperate for the ball. I think Jacob Murphy, in terms of attacking play, has probably been our brightest spark. That was a really disappointing first half. Really disappointing first half. Something really needs to improve in this second half because, I don't know, we just didn't look right. No intensity, no press. Defensively, we looked okay. Kraft obviously coming in, Livramento, Kelly coming in. Didn't do too much wrong at that left-back position, but he doesn't offer us as much going forward. But generally speaking, that was a bad half of football, and something needs to change in this second half. 1-0 down, you could argue deservedly. Bournemouth haven't created many chances, but that was not good enough. Onwards and upwards we go. Away the lads. Right then, finally back in Newcastle, now making the journey back to where I came from almost 22 hours after I left the house. I am ready for my bed, but my God, honestly, if anyone is ever considering doing Bournemouth away, I'm just going to prepare you. The bus maybe isn't your best option. That was a long old journey back. But what did I think of that? Well, you know, first and foremost, I just want to make it clear, we are unbeaten in 2 matches. 4 points from 2. With plenty to build on and plenty still to come. That's a main positive because there's been a lot of negativity swirling around after that one. And do I understand it to a degree? Well, yeah, I do. I get it. Newcastle United are better than that. We play with more intensity than that. And in that first half, this Newcastle team should be performing better. But the way I look at it, I'll be totally honest, and I'll do some videos later in the week reviewing things in a little bit more detail. The way I see things is that Newcastle right now just have players who are not firing on all cylinders. Bruno has barely had a pre-season. He went from Copa America straight to Japan pretty much, and he looks that way. And when Bruno is not firing for Newcastle United, we know that it's normally going to stop our attacking flow. And Joe Linton, who started fantastic against Southampton last week, for me, is being relied on a little bit too much from a creative point of view with this midfield. And yes, he can be good at that, but he should not be the main guy for that. And with Bruno a little bit out of sorts, our attack, that playing between the lines, that creative spark that starts A to B isn't quite there at the moment. And let's talk about Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon, for whatever reason, his head's not in the game at the moment for Newcastle. Is it because he's still annoyed about the Euros? Is it because he's coming back slowly? Or is it just because maybe, just maybe, Southampton didn't give us much of the ball and that wasn't a game for him to really get involved? And Bournemouth, again today, played on the front foot quite a lot and he couldn't really get involved. But what I did notice with Gordon, I will say, so maybe there is a bit of concern there, is that what I noticed with Gordon is every single time he got the football, he tried to release it. When he did get the ball in areas, yes, he took his goal well, and I'm grateful for him for that, because that saved us at a time when we needed a goal, because who knows where that game could have gone if we didn't score when we did. But he wasn't looking to create, he was looking to pass and get rid of it quite often. And then you've got Livramento as well, and maybe a lot of Newcastle fans aren't talking about Livramento. He is one of my top players in this Newcastle team. I thought he was a fantastic signing, and I genuinely do think he will be in the England squad in a couple of years for the World Cup. But he has not started the season, and again, everything I say is not too knee-jerk, because it's 2 matches, and I'm very wary to sound like I'm jumping the gun, and I am not that fan normally. I'm a little bit more level-headed than that. Well, I try to be. So everything we are just taken with that slight pinch of salt. But he hasn't started very well, and his attacking threat from Livramento has not been quite there in these 2 matches, and Southampton less so because we had the 10 men. But all of those things I've just talked about were highlighted when the substitutes came on the second half. Barnes, we know he's not happy to be on the bench. We know he's trained well and he's worked hard in pre-season, and he has not come to Newcastle United to be a £35 million substitute. He's very different to Gordon, but what we saw in Harvey Barnes today is a man who was desperate to get involved. And that ball that he pinged in for the equaliser was fantastic. And we need to maybe look to find a way to incorporate these two, because let's face it, Newcastle fans, the transfer window's not gone well, and it doesn't look like we are going to get a winger. It looks like we're putting all of our eggs in one basket with Mark Gay, so Harvey Barnes maybe has to come into this team a little bit more. He really, really does. And we need to find a way to incorporate him. Kieran Trippier came on. Is it his last match? Well, I videoed him at the end, looking very, very emotional. I would assume he is maybe away. It's just come out in the press what's gone on with his missus. That's not a conversation for this video. He's been a naughty boy. And all of those photos that circulated of his bedroom months ago that people thought were just someone winding us up just to get some engagement on Twitter, that looks like being true. That someone did actually stay over the night when his missus was away and shared photos of it. Is he away? He looked emotional. He chucked his shirt in the crowd. But what he showed to us is that actually, if he goes, we are going to be short. And Livramento was not doing what Trippier did when he came on. I thought Trippier was really, really good. He affected the game positively. There was an urgency. There was a leadership. Again, Bruno taking the armband. I'm all for that. For me, it would be between him and Joe Linton. But Trippier, it's just natural to him, and he's done it for Newcastle now for a fair few years. So he came on, Barnes came on, and Joe Willock, he's worth a mention. Joe Willock is someone who Newcastle fans have labelled as a crock and that we should get rid of. I think Joe Willock came on today and influenced the game from midfield like Short Longstaff can't, like Bruno isn't, and like Joe Linton, unfortunately, today, with the mistake he made for the goal, like he didn't really do today. Joe Willock was direct, he was pacey, he was keen to get on the ball, keen to make things happen, and that was the difference between him and Barnes. Gordon, not quite the body language we expect of him to be wanting the ball and wanting to make things happen. Jacob Murphy, I believe, lost the ball 15 times in that match before he was subbed. That's not good enough. And Jacob Murphy is someone who I believe can be a very important player for Newcastle this season, but those aren't good enough numbers. Bournemouth is not an easy place to go. The Eddie Howe Cup is our bogey cup, And that should not be forgotten. It's not an easy ground to play our football, and we struggle there. They seem to get lifted by playing us for whatever reason. Maybe it's the Eddie Howe factor, but they created chances. Their goal, Joe Linton's mistake, he'll hold his hands up to that, and we regroup and we go from there. Second half was better. First half wasn't good enough, but I just feel like this Newcastle team will start to click. Because Willock's off the bench and he's an option there that it's barely had any minutes and he's good. Wilson's to come back. Tonali's going to be playing on Wednesday, which is exciting. I do still believe this team will click. I just don't believe some of the players in this team are at their optimal levels yet. And maybe I'm speaking for every team in the Premier League because of the Euros, because of Copa America. Maybe there's a lot of teams that falls under. But we need to start picking it up a bit sooner because let's face it, Newcastle fans, in injury time, we did dodge one. Say what you want about VAR, it looked a little bit dodgy. And as for Joe Linton, with that mortal combat move...
Net. Joe Linton.
3, 2, 1, fight.
Look at Randy Orton slithering. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
That's exactly what it was like. That was exactly what it was like, literally. Winner! That was ridiculous, and I know we love that in Joe Linton, and yes, he's got away with it so we can laugh and we can make jokes, but he's got to be very, very careful, because if he keeps doing stupid things like that, and we've seen in his time at Newcastle, he is the hot-headed one that I worry about sometimes, but we've dodged one today. You could argue we've dodged one with that, but we've definitely dodged one with the VAR decision, which, to be honest, when I've looked at it, on the bus back, it looks like he has scored the goal pretty much with his arm, so I can understand why that one's been chalked off. But there'll be a lot of people thinking that shouldn't have been, and VAR has saved us from losing. And it would have been a very different conversation on this video had we lost, because I would have probably been talking, yes, about missed chances from Dan Burns' header, from Joe Linton's header, but also why we weren't good enough, and that's a big factor there. So onwards and upwards we go. We've got Tonali coming back on Wednesday. That's exciting. We've got Tottenham next week, who a team do not like travelling to St James's Park. Let's just make that very, very clear. They do not. That's another big game in St James's Park where we should be getting up for it. But generally speaking, we're a point better off. We haven't lost the football match. There were positives in that second half, and Eddie Howe now has a lot to think about going into the next 2 matches across the next 7 days. Who does he bring in? Who does he take out? And most importantly for me, let's get this Kieran Trippier thing done, and let's bring some bodies in, because I am very, very worried now that the transfer window is turning into a bit of a flop, and I'm not going to be negative on that, but that's a different video, definitely for a different day. Keep the faith, Newcastle fans. Don't do Bournemouth on the bus. And if you like this match vlog, Newcastle fans, as I'm recording this at 2 o'clock in the morning, do us a little favour. Thanks for coming along and watching. Whack that little like button, whack that subscribe, and get Black and White Banter across all socials, where I'll be writing blogs after this, you name it, content every day. Do that for us now, because I desperately need to go and get myself to bed, because these bags are just getting worse and worse and worse. Eddie Howe's mags are still unbeaten, and there's still plenty to be positive about, and still plenty to come from this team. Keep the faith, if I haven't said it already. Hoya, lads!